So hey, here we go. Yeah, I know some people wanted me to. Well, I it was specifically telling people that I was going to do a video on this. So yeah, I think this might be a little bit different for my channel because a lot of people are going to be like, why am I talking about this? But it's like this for me. It's very confusing when I read about body shapes because every time I do, it's like all the definitions could basically apply to me in one way or another. So it's always weird for me because it's always like I don't really know what shape I fit, really. Here, this is about petite dressing. This is why I picked it. I haven't looked at her video yet, but I don't know. I'm gonna do this video. I have some photos of myself as well. But yeah, let's go. Hi, my name is Chi. Welcome to my YouTube channel. You are watching Petite Dressing. If you're new to my channel, I am 5'2". I upload videos every week and talk about fashion style for petite ladies and any topics that short girls are interested in. Today's video is about celebrity body types. Why is it important to understand our body type? Even though there is no perfect body type out there that can categorize all the possible body types, it's still valuable to understand the body type series tells us a combination of features of each typical body type so that we understand what's your best assets and what are your weaknesses. And that way you can dress accordingly to enjoy your assets and distract from your weaknesses. That is why I think it's important to understand our body type. In today's video, I will use the 5 common body types: hourglass, pear, apple, rectangle, and inverted triangle. If you don't already know what body type you have, make sure you watch my video. I will walk you through step by step through several simple quiz questions so that you can find out your body type. And it's very likely that you have a mixed body type. And that's all very common. At least you should know the body type that is closest to yours. And in today's video, I will talk about which celebrities have your body type so that when you're looking for fashion inspiration, you can look up those celebrities and get some style inspiration from them. Now let's get started. The hourglass. Salma Hayek. She is 5'2". She has the extreme example of the hourglass body type. She has very small waist, very full chest, and full hips. Scarlett Johansson is another example of hourglass body shape. She is 5'3". With extremely feminine body curves, she is the sex symbol and fashion icon of Hollywood. So yeah, Scarlett Johansson has the same measurements I do. So as far as what I've seen, supposedly she's about a 37, 26, 36. My measurements are around 30. Well, it depends on basically where I'm at, but I always try to veer on my heavier side, I guess you could say. My heavier side, you could say, is like around 115 pounds, I would say. 150 pounds would be my largest period without like any like hormonal changes, pregnancy, or anything like that. Usually, my higher weight would be 115, my lower weight would be 105. So, starting with my higher weight at 115, my measurements are around, I believe they're around 39, 26, and then 37. My bust line, to me, my bust line doesn't look that big. It just looks bigger than much of my other body parts, basically. So, like, for example, like my bust is 2 inches bigger than my hips.
my bust is 2 inches bigger than my shoulders too, because my shoulders are the same size as my hips, but my bust is bigger. And this is what's so confusing about this whole situation, because it's always like people will sometimes say the bust doesn't matter. You're supposed to talk about the shoulders and the hips. My hips, I never thought my hips were big, but the more I realize, like, even people who are said to have big bottoms, like, for example, Jennifer Lopez, specifically has, like, her measurements are, like, supposedly 26-38, or they were at one point, and that's supposedly big. Now, for me, I'm not big, so I don't really know what's going on there, because for me, I'm only a little different, 26 to 37. So you would think that that would be, I mean, something similar, but it's not really. At least in my opinion. I've never thought my hips were anything serious, really honestly. I never really felt like my butt was anything that serious either. So it's just like, but then sometimes, like, when I see myself completely nude, I do realize my waist cinches in. So then I'm like, okay, I guess I do have hips. It's just that I don't really have that much fat on my hips. I'm not a very fat person. I don't really have a round look to me. I have more of a thin look to me, especially my legs. My legs help me look a lot thinner, I think, because my legs are just thin overall. Like, my legs don't really have that much weight on them. I, um, I always know some people have this obsession with thigh gaps or whatever, and I've always had a thigh gap, but I don't have an extreme thigh gap because my pelvic area isn't that wide, but I do have a thigh gap, and I always have had a thigh gap. You know, basically my thighs don't touch, and you know, I believe my thighs are under 20 inches in size and circumference. Um, So yeah, and then that's another thing with hourglasses. People always say that hourglasses gain weight in their thighs, and their hips, and their arms. These are the places I do not gain weight. Okay, so my arms are one place that I really don't gain weight there at all. Um, some people get really angry about that, but yeah, for me, my arms don't gain much weight. My legs don't really gain that much weight. My butt gains weight. My butt does gain weight. My butt gains weight more than my waist does. And then the thing about my waist is that my high hip region is right where I gain weight, but I won't gain that much weight in my actual waistline. So basically, my waistline is about 25, 26 inches, depending. Sometimes, I believe when I'm like 105, I can get to like 24-inch waist very easily. Sometimes I'm 110 and my waist is 24 inches. It just depends. I don't really go below 24 inches these days. Um, yeah, and honestly, I've always been around the 24-inch range. There's one small period of my life when I had 23-inch waist, but I was like 21. But most of the time it's like 24 inches. So, I mean, like, I don't know. I've never really gone above 26 inches. My waist is always at the most 26, and usually at the least, usually around 24 inches. Could probably come up with extreme times like right after a pregnancy or something, where your waist is 27 inches and hormones are bad and so forth, or 23-inch waist. Like I said, when I was like 21, I had a period of time where my waist, if I'm like 100 pounds, I can be 23-inch waist. But it's just that I'm not really 100 pounds that often. So for me, I mean, like, that's just not a common thing. But if I was 100 pounds, I probably would have a 23-inch waist in that case. You know, my diet is poor. I'll admit that. is probably not a really good thing because I don't really have the best genetics for eating poorly, for what it's worth. But my point is, what I was trying to say here is specifically, um, yeah, I never really understand what shape I am. I really don't. But continue.
Sophia Vergara, the goddess of hourglass body shape. Sophia is known for her dangerous curves in Hollywood. Number two, the pear shape.
To me, see, that's what I mean. You talk about these people, they're very relatable. Like Sofia Vergara is relatable. Um, who else is you mentioned? And um, what's her name? Scarlett Johansson, relatable. Both of these people are relatable when it comes to their shape, in my opinion. But the thing is, when you look at them in bikinis, they do have very they at least Sofia Vergara has prominent shoulders a bit. But the thing is about prominent shoulders that's weird to me is this. People say your shoulders should match in measurement to your hips. But the thing is, when you measure your whole shoulder and it's the same size as your hips, people don't pay attention to the fact that the shoulders are going to be wider because there aren't any hips that are that narrow. You get what I'm saying? Like, there are no hips that are that flat because we have a bottom that includes our measurement of our hips. It's never going to be where if they're the same measurement, that they're the same width. The hips are always going to be narrower, you know? And to me, that's a really annoying thing when people say that the measurement has to be the same, but, the width has to be the same in their view too. But the width isn't really going to be the same because the width is still, you know, small. It's going to be wider in the shoulders for those reasons. So I never really get it. But sometimes when I look at my shoulders and my hips, I kind of feel like they do kind of match. Especially my lower hips. Because my lower hips, when I measure the width of them, it's almost the same as the width of my shoulders. Like they're almost the same exact thing there. Anyway.
The pear-shaped ladies could be skinny or curvy. So sometimes a pear-shaped ladies can easily come across as an hourglass. Kim Kardashian is a very typical example. Slopy shoulders, wider bottom, and prominent thighs. A lot of times the magazines or TV shows quoted Kim as an hourglass body type because she knows how to dress and she knows how to come across as an hourglass body shape. Kim knows how to use the right neckline to broaden her shoulders, so oftentimes she comes across as an hourglass. However, when Kim gains weight, it's pretty noticeable on her prominent thighs and butt. Rachel Bilson, she is 5'2" and she.
Oh, so hourglasses don't gain weight on their thighs? I always thought hourglasses gained weight on their thighs. This is what's so confusing. And then there's this whole thing where pairs will consistently try to claim that they're hourglasses for one reason or another, which confuses the whole situation. Because then people who do have hourglass characteristics, those of us who do not have prominent thighs or things of that nature, um, it messes us up because we may gain weight. Like for me, I gain my weight honestly on my bust, to be completely honest with you. That's where I gain most of my weight is on my bust, then my butt, and then my high hip kind of area, but not my waist and my chest area. So like my chest area. So like it could be like my clavicle region, my ribs, things like that, but not quite my waist, not my thighs, and not my arms, really. Those are milder gains. Like there is gain there, of course, weight gain probably, but as far as measurements, they pretty much stay the same, especially with the 10-pound gain. My legs pretty much stay the same, my arms stay pretty much the same. Um, my shoulders stay the same too. My shoulders don't really get bigger. Um, I don't get fat on my shoulders really that much. They're just what they are. They're kind of just like bony kind of thing. Anyway,
Has a skinny pear shape. You can tell from her beginning pictures that she has wider thighs and wider hips. But again, she is a smart lady who knows how to dress, and oftentimes you will not notice her hips and her thighs. Jennifer Lopez. A lot of people love Jennifer. You see a lot of magazines talking about Jennifer Lopez as an hourglass shape. Once again, she knows how to dress. Even though she has very prominent hips and thighs, she knows how to balance it out with what she dresses, and she oftentimes comes across as an hourglass shape. Number 3, the apple body shape.
I never saw Jennifer Lopez as an hourglass. That's funny. How could she be an hourglass if she only has a B cup? How does that happen? Like, for real.
Apple body shape. I am on the skinny side, so I pay a lot of attention to celebrities with apple body shape. Eva of Korea has a typical apple body. She is 5'2". She has full chest and full bust. So apple body shape ladies, a lot of us do have very feminine curves, just like the hourglass shape. When Eva is skinny, she can come across as an hourglass. When she has gained some weight, you will notice that on her belly and her waistline, that's a very typical apple body shape.
I'm sorry about the commercial. Actually seems relatable. Wait, what she?
All of us do have very feminine curves, just like the hourglass shape. When Eva is skinny, she can come across as an hourglass. When she has gained some weight, you will notice that on her belly and her waistline, that's a very typical apple body shape. Jessica Simpson, this lovely blonde.
Yeah, I find the skinny legs and the skinny arms very relatable for me. But not really a lack of definition in the waist.
Lady, she has a typical apple body shape, and she is 5'2". When she puts on weight, you will notice at first on her waistline. As a typical apple body shape, Jessica Simpson's weight fluctuation is always first noticed at her midsection. She has skinny legs, which is one of the best assets of the apple body shape. Number 4, the rectangle body shape. This is a body shape of supermodels. Kate Moss has a typical rectangle body type. She has a straight up and down body type. She doesn't have a very defined waistline. She has a boyish figure with flatter chest. And overall, she comes across as bony instead of fleshy. Natalie Portman. She is 5'3", a typical rectangle ratio. A lot of times Megan is wearing a belted style. It's a belted jumpsuit, a belted dress, or a belted coat. She uses a belt to define her waistline and also divide her body into the ideal ratio of one third and two thirds, which is the most pleasant to the eye. Belted coats and belted dresses are Megan's signature looks. Cameron Diaz has an inverted triangle body type. She has broad shoulders. She's very athletic, very toned body, and slender and long legs. Cameron knows how to distract attention away from her broad shoulders. You see her wear uneven neckline, one shoulder, and other asymmetric design. Which celebrity have you found with your body type?
Okay, so I always thought I was more along the lines of an inverted triangle, but like everything is opposite to what I got going on there. One, my bust is not small, in any regard. My bust is much bigger than my shoulders. I always felt like my shoulders were big, honestly, because they are big compared to my waist. And they're not, like I said, they're not smaller. Like, the one thing they're not is they're not smaller than my hips, and they're not narrower than my hips. Like, they're the same exact size. Like, I'll take, for example, when I'm 115 pounds. My shoulders are 37 inches, my hips are 37 inches. Sometimes when I'm like, I think 105, I think I might be like 36 inches even both ways. Something like that, 35 inches, somewhere in the 35, 36. They're usually within like a quarter or half an inch of a difference. Many times my shoulders are like a half or a quarter inch bigger, something like that, but basically within the same range, right? But, that's what I mean. Like, always thought I was more an inverted triangle, but, like, I don't have this flat chest like they're saying here at all. My chest is, you could see over here, my chest isn't small. It's pretty large, it's 39 inches large, and I mean, like, I'm not even, I don't know. It's bigger than my chest. Shoulders bigger than my hips, waist. But I always thought body shape was really just comparing things of like your shoulders to hip ratio. You know, I don't know. But yeah, I kind of find that interesting that the inverted triangle they included Cameron Diaz. I always thought Cameron Diaz was a rectangle. So it was kind of weird that someone would say that she was actually an inverted triangle. The apple makes sense to some extent because, like, my arms aren't big, my legs aren't big, but my waist is not that big either. So it's like my waist is like 13 inches smaller than my bust, and my hips, it's like 11 inches smaller. And that's always, like, seemingly the case. If I reach 120, I can, then it's like a 10-inch difference between my waist and hips. And then the ratio of that is like below 0.75. People always say 0.75 is kind of like the goal for, to be more defined in the waist. Well, mine is always below 0.75. So I never really, but I don't feel like my hips, I don't feel like I have very prominent hips. So, but like I said, my lower hips are just about as wide as my shoulders. My waist is like 3 inches less wide than both areas. When I say 3 inches less wide, I'm just measuring the front. I'm not actually measuring the whole thing. When I measure the whole thing, like I said, it's a 10-inch to 11-inch difference. I know people always say like there needs to be an 8-inch difference for hourglass. My bust, though, like I said, is much bigger than my hips, shoulders, that whole region. But my shoulders and hips are kind of like the same thing, so I don't really know, you know. But yeah, it's kind of like when people talk about measurements specifically, I kind of feel like what's her name? Uh, what's her name? Scarlett Johansson would be more along the lines of a similar size, I guess, because similar measurements going on there. She's 37, 26, 36, and I'm 39, 26, 37. Which, I mean, like, that, you could still be like, hell, heck, that's a little bit different because my bust is still kind of on the bigger end. And that's why people always would try and tell me, you're an inverted triangle because the bust is bigger. But right here it's saying that the bust is supposed to be small and the shoulders are supposed to be bigger. But my shoulders aren't bigger. My shoulders are like the same size as my hips. My bust is just bigger. So then it's just like, I don't know. I've tried to look up top hourglasses because top hourglasses are supposed to be people who have shoulders and hips that are basically the same size, but the bust is bigger. You know, some people will even allow for the shoulders to be a bit bigger, but just have a defined waist. But my shoulders, like I said, are the same size. Like they're literally usually the same measurement as my hips. So to me, I don't really know. Like it's annoying that I can't find anything on top hourglasses. I wish people would show more representations of top hourglasses. But I think a lot of top hourglasses have gotten a lot of hate because I think our body shape was more popular in the 2000s, basically because of the whole big chest, skinny girl kind of like phenotype, which is like for top hourglasses, this is a common shape for us if we are skinny. You know, if you're skinny, that's pretty much your main staple because the bus is the last place to go. So, you know, of course, like if you're skinny, your bust is going to be really big, but everything else is going to kind of fall in line with like a Victoria's Secret's model, right? So, anyway, to me, it's just like kind of like, I don't really know, like, what shape I am, like, because of that. And it's so annoying to me because it's like, you know, there's so many different definitions to the same definition. You can never really figure out what it is. I did find it really interesting that hourglasses were specifically asked to wear a um, high waisted jeans. I feel like what high waisted jeans are very ideal for me. I don't really like wearing low waisted jeans. They're not my favorite thing to do. They really aren't because I don't know. It's just they don't they don't really fit well if they're low waisted for me. And it's confusing. So like when people say they need a waistline of this size, my waist is above the low waisted where the low waist jeans are going to stop. The low waist jeans are going to stop somewhere on my high hips basically, or right above my high hips, somewhere around there. And so when that happens, it's kind of like confusing to me because it's like, okay, so you guys will say, like, for example, you need a 27-inch waist, which my waist is much smaller than a 27-inch waist, of course. But if you are looking for a 27-inch waist and you're a low rising jean, then how the heck is my waist supposed to be 27 inches on the low rise? The low rise doesn't reach my waist, it reaches my hip bones. Well, my hip bones are way bigger than specifically 27 inches. I don't think my hip bones have ever been really 27 inches. Even when I was really skinny, I think they were like 29, 28. You know? Um, so then that's why it's always confusing to me with low rise jeans because it's like it doesn't fit where my waist is, you know? And also, I think high rising jeans are kind of good for short waisted individuals. I do not really have short waists, I don't really feel. People think I, it's weird what's going on with me because my torso is even with my legs. My legs are not long, but I feel like I get a lot of symptoms of someone with long legs and a short torso. And I think the reason why that is because they say that you're supposed to split yourself up eight in eight sections, basically. Well, if I do that, most of a portion of me is basically my bust and my ribs, but my waist area is kind of like a short area, small area, while my ribs and bust are a bigger area, basically. Um, so I don't know. It's just kind of like confusing to me. But yeah, I don't know. I still don't really know. I know I'm not a pear. That's one thing I know. And the thing is, like, I've always thought in clothing generally, I think people think I look like a rectangle. Because you can't really see my defined waist or that my waist is smaller than my bust and hips, you know, because I can't even see my own defined waist unless I'm nude. And I can't show you guys any photos of me nude, so you know. But when I'm nude, basically my waist does have a defined indent between my ribs and my hips. But it's only a small area where this is basically an indent because my hip and my ribs have only a short space between them to make a waist, basically. That's why my waist is actually well above my belly button and barely below my ribs, basically. I can't actually see my waist unless I stand up completely straight. If I don't stand up straight, then I can't even see my waist. That's how it is. That's why it's always like just kind of confusing to me. I'm walking around normally. I don't even think people really can see that it's part of me. You know, even though I've actually taken photos of me slouching and I still can see a bit of an indent now that I think that. Um, but I can only see this indent, like I said, when I'm nude because it's like fabrics never really fit for me. I think maybe I'm wearing too big of clothing, I guess. I don't know, I wear things that are kind of drapey much of the time, so it kind of boxes me in, and then I often do look boxy very easily. So, yeah, that's why I'm always very confused with what shape I am. Whatever shape I am, it's like, I've always been like, what shape gains weight in the bust? And I never get an answer as to what shape actually gains weight in the bust. People talk about apples, but apples gain weight in their waist. They don't actually gain weight in their bust. They just say that they gain weight in their bust and waist. But then again, I don't gain weight more in my waist than my hips. I gain more weight in my lower half, like my butt. I gain more weight in my butt than my waist. So I just don't really get or know what specifically I am, really. I don't know. So that's all I have to say in this video. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Comment down below. Have a great day. Bye, guys.